Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ad Age Remotely. I'm Janine Poggi, Assistant Managing Editor here at Ad Age. Thanks so much for joining us. And thank you to our sponsor, Verizon Media, for making this live stream happen. Slack has certainly been the lifeblood of many organizations amid pandemic lockdowns. As one of the primary direct connections employees have had to one another while working remotely, 2020 was certainly a pivotal year for the Office chat app. Now, as vaccines roll out and we see more offices start to reopen and employees return to face-to-face communication, Slack will need to pivot once again. Joining me today is Slack's Chief Marketing Officer, Julie Liegl, to discuss how Slack will look to speak to consumers in this next phase of the pandemic. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Janine. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. Hope you are doing well. And I know we all here have been chatting on Slack, and we're all chatting behind stage as well. So certainly Slack has become pretty much, we can't do our jobs without it. So, it's certainly been an interesting time, I'm sure, for the organization.
Definitely. And as a marketer, of course, you love to hear that about your product.
Well, before we get started, we have lots of questions, but if you're watching on our social channels and you like what we're doing here on Ad Age Remotely, please like, subscribe, share, or retweet this post. And feel free to leave any comments or questions, and we can try to get to those during this conversation. So, Julie, let's go back to the beginning of the pandemic. How did Slack start rethinking its marketing strategy at the onset of lockdowns?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a crazy time. And obviously the first thing we had to focus on was our employees. I mean, before we even started thinking about marketing, it's what we were going to do as a team, how we were going to manage shutting down the office, making sure everyone was safe. I think it's sort of, sometimes it's easy to look back and all the decisions that we made seem so obvious, but at the time we were dealing with such uncertainty, it was crazy. At the same time, we could see that this was a moment where people were going to need new kinds of tools, new kinds of solutions, or to lean into them more than they ever had before, because nobody had planned to suddenly make all of their knowledge workers completely remote, essentially overnight. And we really talked about it and thought about it even as we were trying to manage our own lives in transition. And what it really came down to is, first of all, we didn't want to be ambulance chasers. We didn't want to be out there saying, you need us. What we really wanted to do was serve our customers and meet them where they were. And we had a ton of inbound coming in right away. A lot of it from existing customers who were like, hey, we had planned a rollout that was going to take 3 months. We want to do it in 3 days. Or we were only going to roll out across this one division, this one department. We want everybody to be using this overnight. And what became really obvious was the best thing that we could do was really just to help and to listen. So we really pivoted everything we were doing, especially in marketing, to how could we show up well for our customers. And one of the biggest decisions that we made was, if you remember, a lot of companies were coming out with free offers and things like that. Yeah. That was obviously great, but our product already has a very robust free offering. So what we decided to do instead was to offer free one-on-one consultations. We put them up on our website. Anyone could sign up for them, existing customers, people who weren't customers yet, but wanted to figure out how they could use it. And anyone could sign up for this. The response was so incredible. We have a world-class customer experience team that is very well set up to do this. They can help customers all the time. We're sort of known for it. We were so inundated that everybody in the company was asked to sign up and help and do these consultations with customers. And what was so great about that, beyond, I think as people, we felt like we had some sort of purpose. We could really help, which felt really good during a time that was very disorienting. We started to really understand the themes, the challenges, the messages, and help that people really needed. And that then steered our content that we were putting out, the marketing we were putting out, and really helped us help even more people and expand our reach. And we built all new marketing programs, all new content, all new landing pages, all new campaigns that were really about how to successfully keep your team engaged, connected, and manage through this sudden pivot to remote work using Slack. And most people think, of course, Slack, remote work. That wasn't a way we were positioning and messaging our company. It certainly is a way to use our product, but it wasn't sort of core to what we were doing. So we really pivoted everything we were saying to the market. at the same time. And of course, we ourselves had to work using Slack in ways we never had before, and became much, much better at it, at using it and figuring out innovative ways to make our work more productive. So that really guided our whole strategy.
So once we got past, the initial frenzy and we sort of fell into a new normal, how did the messaging evolve, after that, and where are we, going and looking to next?
Yeah. Well, I think for us, there was the panic, the surge, and then there was the, oh my goodness, this is not going anywhere. This is not changing. And I think a lot of things happened. First of all, we as, users of our own product and professionals went through what a lot of people went through, which I think was fatigue. First of all, because there was such a surge at the beginning, but also just the reality of sitting and staring at a web camera all day long, talking to people, was not sustainable. And the line between work and home and all the demands that were going on at home everyone was getting really burned out and really drained. And so I think stage one for almost everybody was a lift and shift of what we had done before. And let's just move it into a way that people can do it from their houses, their apartments, wherever they're sheltering. I think phase two was, how can we do things differently? Because we as human beings have different needs. People are suddenly homeschooling, or have 6 roommates and terrible Wi-Fi, or need a break in the middle of the day because nobody can stare at a screen without any sort of break or casual conversation. So we started getting better about using our own product to say, hey, does everything need to be a meeting? Can we do more things asynchronously? Can we provide some more balance for working parents who really can't, be part of a 3-hour brainstorm, and figure out other ways to do it? And I think as we evolved that and started talking to our customers about what they were seeing, it really sort of went from, here's how you quickly get this up and running, to here's how you can really start to rethink how you work and create something that's more sustainable. And I think that's guiding how we're thinking about sort of the what's next as the future continues to evolve.
Yeah, we're starting to see, albeit slowly, some offices reopen, employees head back in, even on a hybrid type of schedule. What role for Slack in that hybrid potential work world?
Yeah. Well, we just launched a few weeks ago, right around sort of the anniversary of all of this starting, a new campaign that was called Reinvent Work. And, what we're hearing from our customers, from research that's out in the industry, is yes, thank goodness things are going to go back to normal, and that we will be able to hug our parents and go to a restaurant and fly to Hawaii, or whatever it is that we've been unable to do for the last year, 13, 14 months now almost. But at the same time, people don't want to just completely go back to the way things were before. People don't, for the most part, want to go into the office 5 days a week, 9 hours a day. That's not necessarily something that we realized we need to do anymore. There are other effective ways for us to work. And so the campaign is really about, and sort of the message that we have and the way we're seeing people evolve is, how do you create a new way of working that is more inclusive, more connected, and allows people to work in a way that they really want to, and keep the productivity gains and everything that we've learned over the last year going. So, Slack can be a great tool for that. We know a lot of people want to go back in the office, get out of their house, have the fast Wi-Fi, get coffee with a coworker and catch up. But it doesn't mean that everybody needs to be there every day, all at the same time.
Right. How do you speak to consumers who might be feeling some Slack fatigue, the feeling that because you're on Slack, you're always on? We can message at any time of the day or night. I've had messages really early in the morning. I message really late at night, and you can't help but feel sometimes that you have to answer. So how do you speak to consumers who maybe are hitting a wall and feeling like, okay, I need to disconnect?
Yeah, I mean, I think Slack is an amazing tool. And yes, you could be always on with Slack. And it has to do with, I think, the culture that you establish at your company and the norms that you set. I know that I personally consider a big part of my job as a leader to really model behavior that I expect from my teams. And part of that for me is being really clear about when I will and will not be available. I use Slack status messages. When my kids were still homeschooling and I had to take breaks to be with them every single day at sort of varying times depending on the schedule, I would use a little emoji that was pictures of kids, and I would say kid time today, 12 to 2. And it was very clear to anybody who wanted to message me that I was not going to be available during those times. Similarly, I use Do Not Disturb. I go on PTO and I do not check Slack. I actually just got back from a vacation last week. So I think, the tool is the tool and it can be used in the way that you want to use it to. You have to shape your culture and make sure that you're setting good norms. And I do think that comes from the top. What I love about it is I know even though I'm not on from noon to 2 and I'm monitoring my kids' lunch and art projects, is that when I come back, everything will be waiting for me. It'll be in a place that I can easily discover it. I can catch up. I can prioritize. So it's got that great tool and I can draw the lines of when I will and will not be connected to it.
You mentioned earlier about inclusivity, and I'm wondering how you're thinking about representation and diversity in marketing messages.
Yes, a lot. I mean, it's something that's very core to who Slack is. And I think what we've seen from our research on even just using the product and remote work in general is what's great is a lot of underrepresented groups are feeling actually somewhat better about the way they're able to show up. Some of the norms in the office that maybe made some people feel excluded. Now that those are gone, it's a little bit more of a level playing field. What we're also seeing is as we're able to hire outside of just concentrated areas where we've always hired and be more open to new locations, that we're able to tap into a broader talent pool, which is great. But when I think about our marketing, I mean, it's always been very important to us. It's important to us that our marketing looks like our users, which is an extremely diverse group of people, and that we have diverse people internally looking at it. So we don't have blind spots of things going out, which we've all seen past examples of other companies sort of slipping up because they maybe didn't have a diverse enough group of people looking at it. So I think having that representation in your marketing starts with having representation inside your company looking at your marketing.
And we do have a clip of the most recent campaign that we could show and talk a little bit more as we look forward to Slack's marketing trends. We can play that clip.
That'd be great.
We've been at this for a year. Juggling, struggling, winning, and losing. But the light is ahead, and it invites us not to go back to where we left off, but to break through. To redefine how we relate, to reinvent the way we work, and reimagine how we communicate. This is our moment to build something new.
With Julie Liegl, who's Chief Marketing Officer at Slack. Thank you to those of you who are watching at home. We have Tanya from Pakistan. We have Tiago from Brazil, Cheryl from California, Karina from Argentina, Lisa from Washington, Abby from Georgia, Barb from Austria, and Christina from Austria as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on our social channels and we will try to get to them during the conversation. So Julie, let's just talk a little bit more about the new campaign and also what's coming next from Slack. What are you looking to do following up on that?
Yeah. Well, the campaign was really about now is your moment to reinvent work, as you just saw from the brand video. First of all, I will say the entire campaign, everything we developed using Slack, not only internally, but obviously using our Slack Connect product, working across agencies and with partners and customers. So that was great. We launched that film. We did a bunch of media, including a New York Times homepage takeover and a print ad, really reinforcing our vision that this is really a moment where people are looking to reinvent the way that we work. We did a live stream with our Chief People Officer talking about a culture of inclusivity and empathy, and also our CEO and a customer, the CTO of CBS Viacom, talking about rethinking how they're working in the media industry. We were on Twitter. We had promoted trends. And for us, like one of the coolest things that we did, which was something sort of newer for us, is we did a huge influencer campaign. We had the Wealth Whisperer, Winnie Sun. We had branding and design personality, Jessica Walsh. We had 2 Peloton instructors, which is huge for me, Chelsea and Tunde. I'm a huge Peloton fanatic. And they were really talking about, obviously not just Slack, but really the way that we want to do things differently, the way we want to work differently. So that's sort of ongoing. We have our influencers still going. We still have content and campaign assets going out. And for us, sort of the next thing is getting more into detail, how we work. So we've reinvented work. How are we working? What are we hearing from our customers? What great stories can we tell? And getting into sort of the nitty gritty of use cases and best practices that we're seeing out in the world. So we're really excited about it. We're getting a lot of great feedback, a lot of great interest. And again, just think this is such a great opportunity for all of us to think about how we can do things differently.
And in the fall, Slack did an interesting partnership with Kohan. Can you talk a little bit about that and sort of what the goal was there?
Yeah, my sneakers are right by the door. I love Kohan, and Kohan, more importantly, loves Slack. They're a great Slack customer. They run their business on Slack, and their marketing all gets launched using Slack, and they design their shoes using Slack. So they are a great customer, and we have partnered with them to tell their story. We've done a great case study on them. They were at our listing day when we went public, and they actually designed some shoes for that day just to kind of like have something cool to show. And we started talking to them about it, and they were really excited about it. Like they love Slack and they're Slack fans. And I will say, as a marketer, one of the things I love about Slack, one of the great gifts, is how passionate our user base is. So when they said, we're thinking about maybe making the shoe, we said, that is such a cool idea. We think it's great. We're with you 100%. And the shoes turned out great. And, again, we always knew that we had huge appetite out in the world for our socks and our stickers and other things. So making those available to our very passionate user base just seemed like a great opportunity. So we love working with them. I love my shoes. And, what was great about it, again, was it was really authentic because it was a customer who really was passionate and one that we really wanted to amplify their story. So it was just a great aspect of that.
Will you look to do similar types of brand partnerships moving forward? Are there any coming up?
None currently in the works, but I will say, again, when we have an opportunity to tell a customer story and take it beyond just the typical like video and case study and really put something out in the world, I think we're always interested in doing something different.
So I want to talk about the rollout of Slack direct messages, but before we do, we have a message from our sponsor, Verizon Media. Welcome back. I am here with Julie Liegl, CMO of Slack. So can you discuss the recent rollout of Slack direct messages? It went wide last month. There was some criticism about the potential for abusive messages. So how has Slack communicated to users about this feature?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to make it very clear that Slack Connect DMs themselves were not the issue. They are a great, very secure way for people to connect and DM with people outside their organization. And it comes with very granular controls, the ability to disconnect, reconnect. The feedback that we got was that the email invites, which invited you to actually connect to somebody via DMs, themselves could be abused. And we got that feedback, and we actually immediately, that very same day, were able to fix the problem. And, we're a company that really prides ourselves on listening to our community, listening to our users. So we're really grateful that people spoke up, and very, very happy that we were able to fix it so quickly and close that small gap in the email invite process. But again, Slack Connect does have security features and very good administrative controls. And the whole great thing about it is how much it is you are able to protect users from abuse. In terms of how we're communicating to people, it's really the same way we communicate about all our features. Obviously, there's education in product, up on our blogs, on our website. We put stuff out on social. And we really are excited by the great pickup that we're seeing on Slack Connect DMs. I know I'm personally using it. Again, before, being able to connect via channels with external partners and customers has been great. But now the ability to just start up a DM with somebody and continue to communicate with them where I already am doing all of my work, and in the same way that I'm communicating with people internally as opposed to having to context switch is great. And we're getting really positive feedback from our users.
Let's talk a little bit about the media landscape. You mentioned influencers as a new area of potential for Slack. Can you talk a bit more about that and how that might evolve moving forward?
Yeah. I think what people are really looking for and where they're engaging is they want to hear from real people. They want to engage with real people. We're very lucky to have such a passionate user base, including people who are already influencers. So engaging with them felt very, very natural. And again, what's so great is it's not just, here, tweet out a message that we've created, or, here, just retweet this ad. It's really engaging with them and understanding how they use our product, how they're thinking about the way things are going. So it feels very natural and very, very connected to the way that we want to talk to our users. And that it leads to potentially interest in Slack is great, but what we're really interested in is driving a bigger and broader conversation. So I'm 100% sure we will continue to do more. What I love about it is it really allows us to bring in different voices as opposed to always hearing from us. And we hope that it's also just sort of educating people on sort of changes that we're seeing, trends that we're seeing, and if it leads them to Slack, all the better.
How are you thinking about the audio space? Obviously, with things like Clubhouse and others, it's definitely a hot topic right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We are not formally looking at Clubhouse today from a marketing perspective, but that said, my CEO has already popped in, as have other Slack subject matter experts internally and externally. Stuart spoke a few weeks ago on a panel about the future of offices and remote work and how excited we are about the possibilities, both for what work might look like, but also how we're thinking about it with Slack. And it's funny, one of the things he mentioned is one of the features that we've announced, that we teased a little bit at our user conference earlier, was about adding audio to Slack and creating new ways for people to sort of just drop in and have a conversation there as well. So we think that it's certainly a trend, audio in general. It's a good remedy for some of the video fatigue that people are getting. And so lightweight tools like that, audio capabilities that we're talking about building in Slack, asynchronous video, another thing we're talking about building in Slack, are a big step forward to helping people work in a new way.
But not yet to use as a marketing tool just yet.
Not yet, but it's almost like another social network is the way that I'm currently thinking about it. And again, Stuart out there participating on Clubhouse is our ultimate influencer talking about it. So I could absolutely see it being a channel that we look at in the future. We just haven't done anything really formal with it yet. I gotta hop in.
Yeah, it's an interesting space, certainly. And I know that, brands are trying to figure out how do you utilize it at this point. So I think audio in general will be an area that will be growing over the next couple of months, certainly.
Absolutely.
And another area we're paying attention to closely is, as you see a fragmentation in TV audiences and a migration to streaming channels, how you're sort of thinking about the TV streaming landscape at this point as a, channel for marketing messages.
Yeah, I think we've all been experiencing the fragmentation personally, trying to remember, was that on Hulu or was that on Netflix or was that on Disney Plus? Although Disney Plus is easy to remember because my kids have watched Frozen 2 500 times since we've been home. I think that first of all, for us, it's been a great, being able to do connected video has certainly been a part of our media strategy. And a lot of the streaming platforms are actually customers of ours, Netflix, BBC. A lot of companies that have that are using Slack to roll out their own exciting noises to do that. But we've definitely been looking at it. At the same time, I personally have been experiencing linear TV actually became almost more relevant because the news has been so compelling and so breaking. And also when things like sports came back, it was such a relief and such a salve. So I personally watch more linear TV than ever. And we did actually invest in being in regular TV and actually saw a great response from that early on in the pandemic, and we're continuing to do it. And I should mention, I know I mentioned PBS participated in our last campaign. They told this amazing story. They pulled off the Super Bowl in this crazy world in a very successful way. And one of the things they told us is usually they would have 100 trailers outside the venue coordinating the broadcast and with all the production teams. And this year instead, they had 100 Slack channels to do it. So, they're evolving, we're evolving. It's all really exciting to see.
How are you looking at some of the temples? You mentioned the Super Bowl, but award shows, big sporting events, the Olympics. How do you guys evaluate those things, and what is attractive to you right now?
So I'd say overall our media philosophy right now is we are trying to do high impact things. So whereas I think in the past we might have looked at sort of what is and we still do look at, what does the media buy look like overall? We're looking at really high impact moments. And it's funny, I think about it, we were a very out of home heavy advertiser in the past, and I'm very excited that it will and is sort of coming back already. But I almost think we've almost shifted that to the way we're looking at a lot of digital. So and TV, it's like, let's own a moment. So rather than a really, really long, like low murmur, let's find a big point. So we are looking at things like big moments like, the NFL draft, or will it be the Olympics, or things like that. And it just comes down to, what are the demographics? How does it line up with the stories that we're telling? And how does it line up with the moments that we want to have in market in terms of which ones we are and are not going to invest in?
Does the decline in ratings for things like, the Grammys and Globes and things like that, concern you in terms of these tentpole moments and being able to own them? Or is it all relative considering what the rest of the TV landscape looks like?
Yeah, I think it's all relative. And, we aren't we're not Pepsi. So we're never, going to completely own anything like that. But I think it is all relative. And again, I think we feel like some things have come back. It's also provided more opportunity for, smaller brands to potentially afford some of that advertising, which I think is also great.
Any other media channels that you're paying close attention to that are attractive to you right now?
Oh my goodness. Well, again, like I said, I think we're very excited to see how out of home will come back, and will it look different? Will it be less? We were very focused on downtown, concentrated areas because we're a tool that people mainly use at work, but will that look different, and how will that be? And then anything I think that is really strong on targeting, obviously everyone is excited about the ability to really measure and tie brand investment to ROI. So I think anywhere where there's breakthroughs or things that, where we can both target and measure, sort of pull through, are areas where we're always going to be interested.
We're also seeing a lot of brands sort of play around with and experiment with NFTs. Any thoughts on that as a marketing tool?
Oh my goodness. We are definitely not going to be first on NFTs. Well, obviously, I think Taco Bell has already done some NFT stuff. I think it's a fun and interesting idea. I think for us, rather than we got to get into NFTs, we'd want to have a really great story or something that we would want to do. Is there something we can do around the fact that our users are so passionate that there's something we could create that would be really exciting to do via an NFT, but it would have to feel really organic and authentic to us. And, if it was an NFT, I think we'd also want to figure out what is the purpose? What are we trying to do? Is it to raise money for a cause that Slack is really passionate about? Or is it just to drive awareness and sort of a gimmick? Then what is sort of the bigger tie to it? But I'm excited to see what other brands do with it. And you never know where we might go with that next.
So, over the past year, what are some of the innovative uses of Slack that you have seen?
Oh, wow. Well, one of the first stories that we saw, and it was funny, we discovered it on Twitter, was Twitter ran their first all hands, whatever it was, the third week of March, completely remotely, and they used Slack to moderate the whole thing. So I think the idea of using Slack as sort of a moderation tool for big company gatherings is definitely something we've seen. I think the other thing we've seen, and this is less innovative and more, I think, just about a shift in culture and some of the ways that people want to do things differently, is people maybe only use Slack before for messaging or coordination on really big projects, but they're now using it for more social things, even within work. We at Slack have a ton of social channels. We have Instant Pot users. We have the Pelotonians of Slack. We have the dog owners. We have the parents. We have the moms. We have the single moms. And just the idea that these groups can come together and engage on things that aren't necessarily work related, but give you the outlet that maybe you did used to have in the office, of that casual conversation or the group of people you would get lunch with every other week. Creating that very purposefully in Slack has been really, really great. And then obviously I think Slack Connect, just the fact that went generally available. It's funny, we had this huge in-person launch that we had planned for last June. And instead, obviously, we had to pivot and make that completely virtual. But that Slack Connect went generally available so that people are really able to use Slack and collaborate with their partners, with their customers to provide, for instance, like closer customer support than they have before. I think that's been a huge breakthrough for people during this time.
Any interesting Slack channels that you've seen pop up?
Well, I feel like I've given away a lot of mine. So my favorite at Slack is just there's a dogs channel, and if you get introed and it's Slack and people find out you have a dog, they add you to the dogs channel and they have you introduce your dog. Two things happen. The first is somebody makes an emoji of your dog, which you really know you've made it when there's an emoji of your dog. And then in my case, because I have a poodle mix, you get added to the secret poodle mix Slack group, which is very exclusive.
Wow, that is a really deep hole of Slack channels.
It's a whole tribe. So yes.
I didn't even know that you could go that deep on Slack channels. I think we're clearly over here at Ad Age, we need to get better on our Slack channels. So,
but it has been so great during this time. I'll tell you, there's times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 10 minutes and go to the dad jokes channel. I need a break. I need to laugh. And it also helps me connect with people that I'm not working with on a daily basis and talk to somebody other than the people I'm working with and the 4 people that live in my home. So it's been a great outlet.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to our sponsor, Verizon Media, for making this live stream happen. And as always, thank you to our Ad Age crew, Alfred Mascaroni, Anna Sakula, Max Sternlicht, and Elise Leflane. Thanks everyone for tuning in.